The president's One Big Beautiful Bill is signed into law, but without one key component that leaves out truckers.
Plus, details on the devastating flood in central Texas, sobering cost of operations data, and more on this brand new installment of Trucking with OOIDA. Welcome to the show. I'm Ashley Blackford.
And I'm Scott Thompson. We'll be keeping you company for the next hour or so. Thank you for joining us. Here in just a moment, Ashley, we're going to get Brent Hutto of truckstop.com on the line to talk about his backstory and the market. And I actually spied some encouraging information in the latest report out of truckstop.com. So we'll talk to Brent about that and get the inside scoop. He's always a great person to talk to.
A ray of sunshine.
Great energy, great
him
information. We'll look forward to that. And then a little bit later on today, we're going to get into the American Transportation Research Institute's latest report on the cost of operations with Alex Leslie. Not as much encouraging information in that report, unfortunately. No rays of sunshine. I mean, I guess you could find some rays of sunshine in anything. But again, worthwhile information nonetheless there. So we'll talk to Alex in just a little bit. Ashley, have a good weekend.
Had a great weekend. Lots of loud fireworks. A couple of hot dogs.
Did you?
How many hot dogs did you have?
I'm either ashamed or proud to say I don't think I had any hot dogs over the weekend. I went to a baseball game a couple weeks ago and I had a hot dog.
Okay. All right.
Maybe that carried me over.
I think I only had one this weekend.
Yeah. You didn't have 70?
I didn't have 70 and a half.
Yeah.
Like our friend Joey Chestnut did at the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
We were talking about this earlier. 70.5 hot dog. Don't short them.
In
it was half a hot dog.
minutes.
In 10 minutes. And blew out the competition. Like
by like
46 or something was like the next closest one. 46 and a half, I think. Yeah. Not my idea of a good time.
Not my no. Yeah. I did watch an interview he did, and they asked him, like, what do you do after? Like, are you going out? Are you celebrating for the 4th?
I have some ideas.
And he's like, I'm in pretty rough shape afterwards. He's like, I got a lot of interviews to do, and he's like, I'm just like drunk on hot dogs. It was what he said. That's not a feeling I would want to experience.
Drunk on hot dogs is not a place I don't think I want to ever be, but hey, more power to you, I suppose, and he's made a name for himself. So congratulations there. Let's talk some news here, Ashley, before we get to Brent here in just a moment. Maybe we'll ask him about hot dogs, and I don't know. Maybe we won't, actually. But we did, late last week, have the president signing his One Big Beautiful Bill into law. That was over the holiday weekend here. The headline here, and you've probably seen it out there, is that the tax cuts were extended. There's a bunch of other stuff in there as well. We won't get into the nitty-gritty of those, but there was a move that I think, for our purposes, for the interest of truck drivers out there, eliminates taxes on overtime pay for blue-collar workers. OOIDA came out with a statement afterwards, said this was a good thing, obviously, but President Todd Spencer also pointed out in a statement that truck drivers will not benefit from that provision in the bill because they are still excluded from overtime protections thanks to the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is going on 90 years, I think, since it's been in effect. Changing that now falls to Congress, or will continue to fall to Congress, where there's a bipartisan bill. We've talked about this before in both chambers, called the Guaranteeing Overtime for Truckers Act, or GOT Truckers Act, which would require that truckers get overtime pay when they work more than 40 hours in a week. Now that this bill is behind them, and I know they were very busy there in Washington, D.C., but hopefully maybe lawmakers can turn their attention to those bills and get some changes there, because as we've talked about before, doing that, guaranteeing overtime for truckers would really benefit everybody in the long run.
For sure. Devastating story out of Texas over the weekend. Last Friday on the 4th, Central Texas was hit with heavy rain, which caused significant flooding. The Texas governor has since declared a state of emergency for 26 counties in the Texas Hill County District. This flooding, of course, has shut down many roads. Texas DOT says there's 20 roads that are completely closed due to flooding. In other areas, crews are conducting debris management operations. As of yesterday, President Trump approved major disaster declaration for Texas. So if you're traveling through there, of course, be aware of the situation. The latest closures, you can visit drivetexas.org.
Yeah, just a horrible scene out there, watching the video come in on the news and hearing the stories of the people, obviously, that have lost lives, people that are missing. And it's a horrible situation there. And our thoughts, obviously, go out to everybody there as well. Real quick, before we get to Brent here, wanted to look at New York City as well. The city council there, not always a lot of good news coming out of New York City when it comes to trucking.
No.
But we've got some good news here, I think, in that the council did pass a bill late last week that expands the city's truck parking pilot program that was introduced earlier this year. They are actually trying to do something about the truck parking nightmare. I don't think there's any better way to put it there in New York City. And what this pilot program will do is it will require the city's DOT to essentially create overnight truck parking areas in industrial business zones that would make life a lot easier for those folks that are having to do business there. So a step in the right direction for sure in New York City. So our hats off to them for doing something there. But obviously much more work to do. Just a pilot program for now, but we'll see how that works out over the coming months.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get Brent Hutto on the line. He is the senior advisor with truckstop.com. Brent, how's it going?
Well, Ashley, it's going fantastic. I'm glad to be on with OOIDA on the radio. I mean, that's a fun thing. You guys mean so much to the industry about how you represent the smallest of the players in the marketplace, but your collective voice is fantastic. So excited to be a part of the program, excited to be a part of just continuing to help our industry thrive and to help owner-operators help our country be as strong as it possibly can be. So to me, I'm in a great spot.
Hey, Brent, Scott here. Can I ask you a quick question? Because you said you were incredible. I have never caught you in a bad mood.
Incredible?
Do you? Well, I mean, you're always in such a good mood.
You're always in a good mood.
You're in a great mood. Do you ever get in a bad mood?
Oh my gosh! Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you asking about that. It's a lot of people ask me this question. They say, "Do you wake up this way?" They go, "Do you really wake up this way?" And I do. I've always been this way. I'm the product of a very encouraging father and mother. I've got a great family, and obviously I have an incredible wife, and I have 5 wonderful children, and so I wake up each day. I just feel like that I've seen in life, and I'm a prime example of this, what can be accomplished by being encouraged over by being discouraged or concerned or anxious or, look, all those things are legit and they're real. And that is part of life for sure. But for me, I just look at it and I watch, I got 5 wonderful young kids, and they're not young anymore, but to watch what encouragement does in their life and watch what they accomplish, that's just been me my whole life. And that's the way my dad was with me. And I just feel like if you can give people encouragement, look, and that comes across the board with anybody, no matter whether they're a truck driver or whether they're the person you met at Walmart or whether it's somebody that you ran into at the airport, I do all the time with people. That little bit of encouragement, it's amazing what it does for their hopefulness in their life. And I tell you what, Malcolm Gladwell in his book, I think it's not the Outliers book. It was the David and Goliath book. Talked about the power of encouragement in anyone's life, and it's amazing how that works. So great book to read on that. But I'm always this way. Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Scott said you're always in a good mood, and you're usually always either at an airport, a hotel, a conference room.
Yeah.
You are always on the go.
Well, Ashley, thank you. People ask me about that too. They go, "You always travel." I mean, is this something? I mean, do you really like it, or do you is it something like you don't look forward to? It's just you just have to do it. And I go, well, here's for me. It's always, and look, I'm an adventurous person. I remember when I was on my honeymoon with my wife, sweet wife Teresa. We're sitting by the pool in St. Lucia, and she looks over at me and she goes, "You're not very adventurous." And I'm like, "Are you sure you knew who you married?" Because I'm all about the adventure and going places. And she had some other comments about why I wasn't adventurous, which I've spent the last 30 years proving to her that I am.
I was going to say, how do you respond to that? What are you doing?
Well, I think hers was more focused around, you won't even move away from your hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. I'm going, well, that's where my family is. What are you talking about? So she's just maybe just giving me a hard time. But no, to me, there's a couple reasons. First off, I love the adventure. I love going new places and seeing things because it gets me excited. But for my job and my whole life, I've been out. You know, my job has been to really like be in the marketing and the promotion and the sales part of a business. And when your reward is given to you when you go and do things, then you know that's a positive place to be, because success for me has always been found in going out and going and doing. And plus, I'll tell you the other part of this, Ash and Scott, is that the greatest learning I have found and I think it holds true for anybody, is with your feet. In other words, you go places and you see and experience things. And to me, you know, God made this great, incredible world for us to experience. And I've yet to lose any passion for going and doing it. But yeah, I'm in a lot of places. And by the way, that just kind of speaks to the situation. Trucking is a giant industry, and you can go somewhere every day and experience something new about trucking.
That's awesome. Now, I'm sure many truckers, you know, have heard you over the years, crunching numbers, talking with the market. But I'm curious, you have such a passion for the industry. How did you get involved in trucking?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I love it when people ask me this question, because I started 1998. I went to work for Overdrive magazine. You know, and ran Overdrive and Landline are good parts of the market and helping owner operators. And so I went to work for Overdrive, and people think, oh, well, did it start then? I go, nope. Started when I was about 12 years old, and it was. I'm the middle brother. I have an older brother that's 18 months older than me. I got a younger brother that's 16 months younger than me, and my dad owned a little small steel processing company, and we were his labor when his other labor wasn't available. So my dad would come in the room and go, hey, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, we're going over to the office. We've got some product. We've got to get onto a pallet, which got to go onto a truck. It's picking up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, what? We got to go work. But my dad was always about honest work and getting things done. And so because it was a steel processing company, we used to cut cold rolled steel into smaller pieces and put them on pallets and, you know, that sort of thing. And pretty kind of somewhat dangerous work, but you learn to have fun with it. And so, but the coolest thing to me wasn't what we were doing with the steel. It was being able to run the fork truck and scoop those pallets up and stick them onto a flatbed truck run by a great owner operator named Robert Warren out of Pontotoc, Mississippi, who I became like a little nephew to him, because I was in awe of him. He was the coolest truck driver I've ever met. And just that kind of got my passion, Ashley, for trucking, because I saw how genuine and how helpful and how dedicated and how loyal and how patriotic trucking was for our country. And so to me, I just was like, that's such a cool thing. And then in 98, when I got to come to work actually in the industry, then for me, it was just like lights on. There's another story, too, about a truck driver saving my life when I was not real smart. He kind of pulled me out of a car and I was bleeding all over the place. That guy's name's Samuel Arrington. Still friends with him today.
Brent, we got to hear that story. Don't just gloss over that.
Oh, my gosh. Well, when I was an unwise young man,
as many young men are.
Driving a car. Yes, but I was driving a car at 3 o'clock in the morning. I by some other circumstances, the road went left on Highway 20 going towards Augusta, Georgia, and I went straight into the trees and into the woods. And I woke up and I'm like looking out the window, and the car won't start, and the window won't go down, the door won't open. I'm jammed down in this hole, and I'm like bleeding out of my nose, and there's blood all over my clothes, and I look up through the window, and there's this face looking in there, and he's knocking on the window, and I can hear him saying, "Are you okay?" And I get the door open just enough where I can kind of slide out. My car was actually in a ditch. I hit a tree, several trees, and got wedged into a ditch. And I smashed my face on the steering wheel, and I dislocated my shoulder, and I compressed my tailbone. And he was a truck driver named Samuel Arrington who saw my car, got me out of there, gave me a lot of good advice on how to deal with things over the next few hours when the authorities were going to come around. Yeah. And to this day, Ashley, Scott, I'm still friends with him. I still send him Christmas cards. I go and see him in Arden, North Carolina. He's now like 89 years old.
He's retired, I would assume.
Retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely retired, but still stayed friends with him because of, I saw the heart of the truck driver in Sam Arrington's eyes and his actions. Wow. When just some guy that he saw that had a problem. He came and pulled me out, saved me, gave me great advice on how to deal with certain things that were going to happen. I won't go into details of that.
Yeah.
But and then just stayed friends with him. I mean, I called him 2 or 3 times a year. I even went to his home in Arden, North Carolina, and spent some time with him. And that to me is the picture of truck drivers in transportation, is their sacrifice and their willingness to help others. And my gosh, who wouldn't be in love with owner operators and truck drivers?
Yeah.
When you have an experience like I had with my father and my brothers and Sam and Robert Warren, and then working in the industry where you can help make a difference in their lives. And to me, it's just always given me this sort of like idolization or love and dedication to this industry, to want to help every owner operator and every small fleet be as successful as they can by giving them information. And so to me, that's how I thank you for asking that question. I love to tell the story, because stories are what get people like him. That's what helps things, mean something. When you tell the story of how you got there. But so that's me and how I got in this industry, and I've not lost any enthusiasm for it since I started experiencing it.
Yeah, it comes through. It comes through in everything you say and the way you say it too.
You.
It's very clear that you do have a passion, and it makes sense. Hearing those stories, and it was those two men that kind of propelled you this direction. It makes a whole lot of sense.
Well, thank you.
Can we ask you, because of your optimism?
Yeah,
we have you. We talk to you pretty regularly.
The
past couple of years, there has not been, I mean, you can find optimism in anything, I suppose, but, it has been a couple years of just really tough conditions for truck drivers out there, for owner-operators out there. As you kind of navigate all the information that you get there at truckstop.com, how do you kind of frame that when you get that information? Even if it's negative information, you're trying to help folks out there navigate the world and navigate the conditions out there. How do you kind of frame that, I guess, in your mind when you're looking at everything?
Yeah, to me, I try to kind of move back and take the perspective of, okay, well, if I'm a truck driver, what's important to me, and then what do I need to know that is the truth that doesn't change? And the truth that doesn't change is that you're running a business that, in order for the world that we live in America to work, they have to have what you do. So you are necessary to the economies of the 337 million people that live in America. And to me, that's a really incredible and honorable and should be a humble place for every owner-operator, every truck driver to think about as they run their business, whether it's great rates like we had in the middle of the pandemic, where you could just name your price and you could get $5 or $6 or $10 a mile. And it was, some would say, oh, those were the best days ever. And I'd say, well, they're all really good days, because you're needed by your customers. And so that's what, not just needed, you're required. And so to me, that's a great place to be. And so I look at today, Scott. That's a good question, because a lot of people, and look, I get it's not as easy as it was, say, a couple of years ago. And those markets, those times, those aren't always normal. Normal is just the normal. It's like, okay, well, rates are always going to be, a challenge on one side or the other. But here's the thing, man. There's so much access for any trucking operation now to find freight availability, to find the rates and lanes, to find the most productive lanes, to be able to negotiate with people. There's so much information and power at your fingertips to allow you to run your operation. You almost have to choose to not make the decisions maybe that could be the most beneficial to you. You have to just choose, I'd rather have that than have this, because it's all at your fingertips. Yeah. And I mean, when you look at that, there's anywhere from, 400,000 to 600,000 loads every single day available among the van, flatbed, and reefer, and specialized and oversized, all the different parts of the market. That's right there at your fingertips. To me, I realize rates aren't maybe what they were or they could be in some areas, but I also look at freight because I see these rates, and I know that there's certain parts of the market that you can do very well. And to me, I look at the way that they can manage their business, Scott, and I just want them to be able to utilize the data. This is why I talk about it all the time, because I want every truck operation to be able to utilize the data to their best benefit, because there's nobody, and I mean nobody, that can accommodate to a challenging market better than an owner-operator. Because if you got 100 trucks, you know how long it takes to change behavior in 100 trucks? Long time.
Yeah.
If you got 1 or 2 trucks, you can change tomorrow, and you can figure out how to minimize this and maximize that, not spend this and do this to be able to create a profit. And man, there's plenty of opportunity, and that's why I just kind of continue to stay positive, because today there's no greater opportunity, because there's a lot of parity, because the data that's available to the owner-operator used to only be available if you were a big operation, and now it's available to anyone.
Yeah.
And looking at the market now that we're into July, how are things looking?
Well, it was a good week last week, and I'll tell you what, the pressure in the market is actually, as you and I have talked about quite a bit, has continued to stay above normal. In other words, what I mean by is that there's more freight available for the spot market, the independent owner operator, the 1, 2, 3 truck operation out there. There's more freight available now than normally in a 5-year period. I always look at the 5-year period because it's super important to go, okay, well, is there more freight available? And there has been. We've never gone below the 5-year average, even after the pandemic. The pandemic, we had 3 times as much freight because everybody was buying so much stuff, and it's what drove the high rate marketplace. But the thing that's been really promising is that rates increased just week to week. From last week to 2 weeks ago, they went up 5 cents. But remember, we had a holiday week, and holiday weeks always drive rates a little higher. But here's the crazy thing. This is what gives me a lot of hope, and makes me feel a little bit more incredible there, Scott, which is van rates increased 21 cents from week to week, from $1.97 to $2.18. Now, this is the posted rate to the carrier, okay? So, and then flatbed stayed kind of even from $2.52, went up 1 cent to $2.53. But the big one was refrigerated rates went up. They increased 20 cents from $2.46 to $2.66.
Wow.
Now, if you include what happened 2 weeks ago, which is it went up 15 cents, in 2 weeks it's went up 35 cents to $2.66 a mile. And so to me, that just by itself should help you realize that there is great opportunity in this marketplace. And in the end, you've got to be able to know how to negotiate, and you got to know how to control your costs. You know, you maximizing all of your hours of service, every single load that you haul, because there's plenty of freight out there. And the other encouraging thing is, and Ashley and I talk about, you and I talk about this all the time, is the bigger part of the marketplace, the contract part of the marketplace, which is about 75% of the market, continues to reject freight. In other words, the freight that they had agreed to haul, they're rejecting it at a higher percentage of the normal. Normal is somewhere around 3 to 4%. If it gets above 5%, spot market freight, the ones that independent owner operators haul, there's more freight in that part of the market. That's why we continue to see it being above normal. Well, for the last 39 straight weeks, it's been over 5%, which is the bottom part of the marketplace. It's been, this past week, it was almost 7.5%, which means rates will go up and it'll be more positive for owner operators. And so just in general, that's it. The other thing, and this is really cool. Scott, Ashley, this is awesome. Okay. So post-pandemic, in other words, right as we came out of the cycle of the pandemic, contract rates have been above spot market rates.
Right.
For until this past weekend.
Did they finally caught up to each other?
Yes, they didn't just catch up; they went above. The van contract rate per mile, according to FreightWaves, and I pull a lot of information off of Sonar. It's a good platform. The contract rate for van $2.31, van spot rate $2.39, 8 cents above. It's the first time, Scott, Ashley, that I've seen it above the contract market. And let me just say, if you're an owner operator, this is a good thing. This is a great thing for you, because it gives you more ability to, when you're negotiating with your brokers, or you're negotiating with a shipper, or you're negotiating wherever else you might negotiate, it gives you more ability to say, hey, I need 4 cents more per mile, 3 cents more per mile, 2 cents more per mile, 8 cents more per mile. And so this is why, Scott, Ashley, this is why I talk about all these numbers. And look, I'm like an ad hoc economist when it comes to this stuff, because I love them because when you know the numbers and you're negotiating with somebody that's what they talk about all the time, guess what? You should be able to negotiate a better rate for yourself. But you got to know the numbers first. That's why I dig into them all the time.
But Brent, you buried the lead there because that's big. That's a big development. If the contract rate, that's a big development because we haven't seen that for what? It's been 2 years or more, I think, at this point, right?
At least 24 months, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So that is we don't know what's going to happen, but that is a very positive sign about where we might be headed, right? Obviously, there are variables out there that can push that off course, but if we're heading that way, that's huge. I mean, that's a huge development.
It is, and I started saying this in about October of last year because in 2024, Scott, so spot market rates were depressed about 30% below normal. All right, in 2024, we got about half of that pricing back. So then we're about 15% below the trend, the normal average trend of what rates should be. Well, you're seeing sequential increases of rates and freight availability inside the spot market, which means the rates will continue to move in an upward position, but they move slowly. And here's the thing: you want them to move slowly. You know why? Because you can go up fast in rates all you want.
Yeah.
But if inflation kills your profitability, it doesn't help you at all. We need to go up slowly. Yeah, you want to go up slowly so you don't bring back inflationary measures back into our economy. Remember that trucking is a derived. This is a fun word. A derived demand of the U.S. economy. In other words, we grow and we shrink according to the economy.
Yeah.
And so this should tell us that the economy is continuing to be strong. We'll continue to see the good things. Granted, there's a whole lot going on with the new administration, all kinds of new principles, and some big beautiful thing that's hit the marketplace, and there'll be some changes with that. But point being is that's exciting, Scott. Actually, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. Unfortunately, we're running short on time here, Brent, so we're going to have to toss it to a break here shortly. But we appreciate your positivity.
Very much so.
We will certainly talk to you again soon. And after the break here, we're going to be speaking with Alex Leslie with ATRI about the cost of operations and just how bad they have been, unfortunately. But we'll find some positive things there as well. Our thanks to Brent Hutto of truckstop.com. Trucking with OOIDA continues right after this. Welcome back to Trucking with OOIDA. It's going to come as no surprise to you that the conditions surrounding the trucking industry have not been favorable over the past few years. And that's the case even if you take capacity and demand and rates out of the equation. The American Transportation Research Institute just came out with its annual report that looks into just how much it costs to operate a truck, and the numbers paint a picture that isn't very pretty. Alex Leslie from ATRI helped put the new report together, and he joins us on the line now to walk us through it. Alex, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
How's life up in Minneapolis? That's where you are, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
It's going great. Yeah, great summer so far. The mosquitoes have been a little lighter than usual, so I'll take it.
Hey, that's good. Yeah, the land of 10,000 lakes. Is that what it is? I imagine you do have a lot of mosquitoes up there.
Yeah, 10,000 lakes and about 10 trillion mosquitoes.
Who's counting though? Yeah,
right.
For sure. Speaking of annoyances, I was going to try to do a clever segue there. I'm not sure I did it, but we're talking operational costs. Obviously, ATRI's out with this new report, and you do this every year. Can you talk to me before we kind of dive into the numbers here? Just talk about the report itself and the intent behind it, because you're really compiling this and doing this to help folks out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We started doing this operational costs report back in 2008 because really there wasn't any other good source in the industry for costs benchmarking. And that really is the core of this report, benchmarking your costs as a motor carrier. Of course, it has continued to grow and become enriched by a lot of other operational benchmarks, key performance metrics, and some revenue and operating margin metrics too. So it's really become a one-stop source of information that really it's a barometer for the trucking industry, not only for fleets, but for all kinds of folks who work with motor carriers, whether that's in the realm of finance or insurance or you name it.
Yeah, I like that you kind of reference it as a barometer for the entire industry because, as you know, there are folks out there who are weathering the storm and doing well for sure. But I think overall the environment, blanket statement here, but overall the environment has not been great for the past couple years at the very least. And we're talking in terms of this report, 2024 numbers, which makes sense because you compiled them and put them out here. I am not going to cloud your judgment or kind of bias you, I guess, in any way here. But as I'm looking at the numbers, they're kind of eye-opening in a number of ways. And again, I think they tell us what we kind of already know in some respects. But go through the numbers a little bit for us here. I guess starting with the average cost of operating a truck last year for, again, the average carrier out there.
Yeah, the average operating cost was $2.26 in 2024, and that number includes fuel. So if you take fuel out of the picture, it comes in at $1.77.9, so about $1.78 essentially per mile.
Right. So we had a decline in the overall operating costs, but when you factor out fuel, I suppose, right, they went up. And that was kind of a record, I believe, too, right? In terms of ATRI's reports here, we saw some record-breaking there, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah. So if you look at that overall, sum of the total, costs went down by 0.4%, but again, for a lot of fleets, fuel is getting covered, or most of it at least, is getting covered by surcharge.
Right.
You're responsible for your own deadhead mileage, fuel, and that kind of thing, but a lot of that fuel cost is being covered by surcharge. So again, if you take that out of the picture, actually costs went up on average by 3.6%, and like you said, Scott, that does mark a new record high since we started, doing this report almost 2 decades ago.
So we'll certainly kind of dive into the numbers here and kind of talk about what they mean. But overall, when you hear that, and when I hear that, I think that's not great. And again, I think it kind of reflects what we're feeling out there and seeing out there. But the big takeaway for you from this, I would assume, would be that costs continue to go up, right? And it's a looming challenge for a lot of folks out there who are trying to make ends meet.
Yeah. I mean, you sit down and look, costs, they go up most years, right?
Right.
It's not often that things become less expensive. So, but part of this is you come in with clear eyes. Inflation in 2024 was about 2.9%. So, our 3.6, if you take fuel out of the picture, is not too much over that level. But again, this is in an environment where there's absolutely no give on the rate side of the equation, right? So
right.
It's one thing for costs to go up at a decelerating level, right? They've decelerated quite a bit. But when there's just absolutely no leeway coming from the rate side, where rates have either been stagnant or in some cases worse even over 24, that's really where fleets are getting squeezed. So it's sort of a strange mix there. On the one side, if you look at it, 2 years ago, costs went up by 12% in 2022. In 2023, they went up by 6.5%. In 24, they went up by about 3.5%, right? So we've essentially cut that number in half each year, which is good, but when rates are still so resistant, that's really where the profitability has been, frankly, squeezed dry in the industry this year.
Yeah, for sure. We knew just from being out there, we knew that fuel prices had gone down last year, and I think that factors into what we're talking about here. But it was interesting to me to see from the reporting here that repair and maintenance costs actually went down as well, which kind of surprised me. I don't know if maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but that did kind of, make me take notice about that because I wouldn't have expected that. But that's what did happen, right?
Yeah, and in fact, that's a data point that's corroborated pretty well by some of our other sources in the industry. Decisive, the fleet maintenance company, and ATA's Technology and Maintenance Council, they also put out a quarterly report, and they tracked a pretty similar trend. Part of that is that parts costs have come down as part supply has improved, and that's been a process over several years, right? Correcting for during the pandemic and the years immediately following 2020, when parts were rising at such a high rate because you just couldn't get what you needed.
Right.
So a big part of that 2% decline that we saw in R&M costs in 2024, frankly, is just a correction. They still stand at a historically pretty high level, just shy of 20 cents a mile. But like you say, that was a welcome source of at least some relief this year.
Yeah. And as you pointed out, I mean, true relief is going to come when rates go up, whenever that happens. And we see all these other kind of elements in the industry, pick up where they have been lagging for so long now. But, you found out in the report and talk about this a little bit too, about the operational impacts caused by the recession that we've been undergoing here for the past few years. You mentioned, truck capacity dropping 2.2% with carriers selling trucks. We've got empty miles rising to an average of 16.7%. And I think the number of drivers per truck fell to like 0.93 as carriers, sat down and parked their trucks to kind of wait out the storm here. When you look at it all together, it really does kind of paint a picture of an industry that is kind of stagnant, right? I mean, kind of just in neutral, I suppose, for lack of a better term. And it's really reflected in everything that you're seeing here. I imagine the people you talked to for the report and the input you got reflected that as well. I mean, what were they telling you about the conditions out there and kind of how they're trying to, I guess, survive through them?
Like you said, Scott, those data points, it's a lot of different numbers individually, but they really do come together to paint one single picture, which is an industry that really is beginning to freeze up. Capacity leaving the market, parking trucks, the ratio of non-driving employees to drivers, that shows that a lot of fleets have been, laying off office staff as well. So all of these figures sort of point towards, again, when you look back at 2023, it's very similar market conditions, very similar rates, but there was more optimism, I think. Certainly in the data points that we saw, a lot of fleets were still increasing capacity. They were preparing for a turn in 2024. A lot of folks were not yet letting go of staff members, potential redundancies. A lot of that was still waiting and still kind of optimistic. This year in 2024, I think we really saw a flip there, where a lot of fleets have begun to now think in a slightly longer term about this freight recession.
Yeah. Is there anything from all the data that you got, anything that makes you feel optimistic about where we are? And I know that's a tough question considering what we're talking about, but, is there any sliver of hope there, any, silver lining that you see when you look at these numbers? Or is it pretty much just, hey, this is where we are right now and we're kind of stuck and eventually we'll be out of it. But for right now, this is where we are. I mean, what side of things do you kind of fall on there?
It's a really challenging freight market right now. So it's hard, it's hard to look for those points of optimism just because the reality out there is so difficult. There are spots where fleets can reduce costs, things like repair and maintenance. And, two of those cost centers we saw increase at rates below inflation, which could, right? So there are some opportunities for fleets, even though it's hard to see what acts as a catalyst on the right of that equation.
Yeah. You also have first quarter 2025 numbers in there, I think, just to kind of show, where we may be headed here, some trends that you're keeping an eye on. They're showing pretty much the same thing, right, from 2024. We're not seeing much change there as well.
Yeah, the numbers we're seeing from the first quarter of 2025, they do seem to be pretty much a continuation of the trends that we saw over 2024. The same three line items are increasing at the greatest rate. That would be truck and trailer payment costs, insurance premiums, and then driver benefits. And then, pretty much the same items are either decreasing or showing some area of at least relief. So tires, R&M costs were up a little bit, but that could still change. Early in the year, you tend to have more maintenance events. And then driver wages continued to decelerate in growth. So again, there are a few areas here where carriers can take advantage of cost savings opportunities. But, it is, again, an area of there's not a lot of wiggle room for most fleets right now.
Yeah. We started this off by talking about the intent of this report and kind of, hoping that it can help people make decisions as they navigate the storm out there, as it were. What do you hope people take away from this particular report, this 2024 report? How can they use it to do that, to help them make better decisions?
Yeah, cost benchmarking, so important, understanding where you fall in relation to your peers, understanding, not just on those cost benchmarks, but also on some of those operational benchmarks, to understand where you have room to make some of those adjustments, to make some of those savings decisions, and, where maybe you don't have as much room. And simply, in an environment like this, understanding your costs and understanding the industry's costs helps you make better decisions about the rates that you accept, in terms of ensuring that you've got something that's profitable, right? With margins so thin right now, average margins below 2% in every sector other than LTL. It's imperative that fleets understand their costs and the relationship between those costs and operations. And we really do hope that our report is able to help provide some direction, at least, in that process.
Yeah, information is power. I keep joking with people that at some point I'm going to talk to you and talk to others, and we'll be talking about, another boom. Things are going great. Rates are up and everybody's doing well and we're all celebrating. That time is not now. It's not today. But it will come, and when it does, we'll talk to you about that. And I think the mood will be much lighter and hopefully much happier. But those times are coming. This is going to take a little bit of time, as we keep saying, right?
Yep. All a cycle.
Yes, and this has been one of the longer. It feels like a very long cycle, this particular one. But yeah, we will get out of it at some point. And Alex, when we do, we'll talk to you. If not before then, we'll definitely talk to you at that point. And again, we can celebrate the good times. But Alex, appreciate your time, and thanks for all the work you and your colleagues there do at Atri. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, Scott. Thanks.
Our thanks there to Alex Leslie of Atri for his time and his work on this report. You can check it out at truckingresearch.org. As for us, Trucking with OOIDA, we're going to take a break for a moment, but we're back right after this short commercial break.
Allen & Company and Big Al will be at the I-80 Truckers Jamboree. See you there.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
Protect your diesel engine with Howe's Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power, performance, protection, all in one. Howe's Diesel Defender, available now.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
At TruckStop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on TruckStop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
And welcome back to Trucking with OOIDA. Scott, still here?
Ashley, I think I'm here.
You are there. I can confirm. Mentally, I'm not sure if I'm all here, but, hey, showing up's half the battle, right?
Exactly.
Something like that. Great talk with Alex Leslie of Atri. Just wanted to talk about that for a second here. Also, I think when you take into account we had Brent Hutto and we had Alex Leslie, who both between them are swimming in data and information. with the idea being, with ATRI and with truckstop.com, the information is power. They want to make sure they're helping people. And in order to help people kind of make the best decisions for their operation, they need the information and data to make those right decisions. Yeah. So I think it's great kind of having both of them on together on the same day because they both have the same goal. And that's kind of, figuring out what's going on out there and helping people the best way they can. So exactly. Really appreciated talking with Alex there. We saw something earlier, Ashley, you and I, about high-speed rail, which I feel like in the U.S. is kind of I don't want to say a pipe dream. I mean, I see these things that come out of it. I'm like, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And I know California's working on one.
Is it actually going to happen?
Is it actually going to happen? Well, and there is I think a startup company, and the name of that company is Ameristar Rail. Mm-hmm. They just came up with a plan. I guess they're trying to partner with Amtrak using existing infrastructure in the United States to come up with a high-speed rail system train between New York City and Los Angeles. And this kind of gets to this sounds great, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen.
And how high speed are we talking here? Because we don't have anything like this in the U.S., right?
We do. Yeah, there's no high-speed rail in the U.S. I mean, there are in other countries, obviously. I lived in South Korea for a while. They have a high-speed rail.
How fast did that go?
Fast. I don't remember exactly how fast it was.
Do they use the metric system?
Yes, they do use the metric system, like most of the world.
I think, most of the world.
Most of the world does, yeah.
America.
But I don't think we know, and maybe I missed it. Maybe it was in the article, but how fast it would go. But the trip between the U.S. or between Los Angeles and New York City would be, I think, 72 hours. Is of course the number of stops along the way, but.
It would be kind of neat.
It would be very cool, but again, I don't know how feasible it is. For passengers, this would be a great way to get from coast to coast. I think pretty quickly. I think they did mention truck drivers as well, that they'd be able to kind of drive up, I guess, in their tractor and hitch a ride on the train.
I can't picture that. But
I can't picture it either. Yeah, a lot of these things I see that I'm like, this sounds nice.
They also pitched that they would have this going by May 10th. Of 2026
for the World Cup,
the FIFA World Cup, and it coincides with the United States 250th anniversary celebrations. That seems ambitious.
It seems ambitious. I mean, again, the infrastructure is there, I suppose, but I don't know. I guess apparently they've pitched this to President Trump and the White House and Transportation Secretary Duffy and different lawmakers. Trying to get some momentum behind it. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
No pun intended?
No pun intended. Get this thing on the tracks. Get this thing moving down the tracks. I don't know.
Going off the rails.
Much
like this conversation.
Oh, all right. Well, that was harsh. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. Ambitious, I think, for sure. There was another thing, too, out of California. And we've talked about wildlife crossings quite a bit in recent years. I guess they're in the final phase of constructing the Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Crossing, which is in Agora Hills. It's to go across U.S. Highway 101 to help with wildlife. Apparently, they're pretty close to getting that thing done. Obviously, saving animals. They mentioned the mountain lion. I think being isolated from populations, it's hindering them from breeding, essentially.
They could be extinct in 50 years.
Yeah, the conservationists are worried about that. So this is one way for them to obviously get back and forth. So pretty cool there. Obviously protects humans
of course.
As well from crashes. And this is something that we hear quite a bit about in terms of wildlife collisions. So pretty cool there. And looking ahead to this week, Ashley, we talked a couple weeks back with Lee Meyer of the Iowa 80 to talk about the Walcott Truckers Jamboree. That is coming up Thursday, right? Yeah. So a lot of cool stuff there. We've talked about this. I have not been there. We were talking hot dogs earlier. They've got the pork.
The pork sandwich.
Yeah, they've got food there. They've got entertainment.
Sounds like a fun event.
It does sound like a very cool event. I would like to get up there. I'm not sure it's going to happen this week, but at some point we would like to do that.
Yeah.
And actually, again, we talked to Lee Meyer here, marketing manager for Iowa 80, just a couple weeks ago, previewing this event, looking ahead to it, and with it being a few days away, we thought it might be good to hear from Lee again, kind of explaining here what the event has in store.
We have a Super Truck Beauty Contest. We have our Antique Truck Display. Those both open on Thursday, July 10th, and they'll continue on through Saturday, July 12th. We also have our Iowa Pork Chop Cookout. That's our parking lot cookout. They're delicious. That starts at 11 each day. and goes until 8:30 on Thursday and Friday and until 4:30 on Saturday. We also have our Trucker Olympics all 3 days, various times. Anyone with the CDL can come and show off their strength or their ability to catch a water balloon in our parking lot. It's great fun. There's prizes, so come and join us for that. We also have live music. So starting on Thursday at 5 p.m., we'll have the Jimmy Welty Band. At the main stage, we'll also have Casey Musicman starting at 7. And on Thursday and Friday at 9 p.m., we also have our Lights at Night display and our fireworks. So it's super fun. People get to show off their lights and often their horns and their stereos, too. It gets kind of loud, but it's so fun and it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite parts of the Jamboree.
And, of course, Lee Meyer there talking about the Walcott Truckers Jamboree this weekend. Marty Ellis will be there with the OOIDA Spirit Truck.
Yeah.
He always loves people stopping by, saying hi. You can, of course, sign up for an OOIDA membership or renew your membership
at a discount.
Discounted rate. So definitely do that then.
Good to see Marty back on the road, too. I know he's been away for a little bit, so it'll be good to get him back out there.
I'm sure he's pumped to be back out as well.
I think so, too. I know he loves being home.
Yeah,
for sure.
Of course, but I think
he also loves what he does.
For sure.
So, yeah, it'll be good to see him back out there for sure. Absolutely. One other thing, too, to highlight here, and we talk about this every year, too, the OOIDA Mary Johnston Scholarship. We've got the 2025 winners. This is, of course, a scholarship program that's been going on for a number of years now. About $400,000 has been awarded to children, grandchildren, and legal dependents of OOIDA members over those years. And how it works essentially is we have one $2,000 winner, and we've got 4 $1,000 winners. That money obviously going toward their education, whatever they may be choosing to do. They've got to write an essay and kind of explain, what their idea is for their career path and why they, want to go down that route. And the big winner this year was Wyatt Arndt. He's a $2,000 winner. He wrote in his essay here that his dad is a big reason why he's going to higher education to get his applied science degree in diesel mechanics. He said that trucking takes a special type of person who can barely stand to be away from home, but at the same time supporting their families all the way there. So congratulations to Wyatt. And congratulations to the other winners as well there, Cooper Daniel, Madison Worley, Sig Halverson, Michael Rotondo, and Owen Pingle for their wins there. A great thing. Really cool that they've been doing this for so many years and helping folks out, these kids out, these students out as they start their educational careers.
And I think the only connection is they have to have something to do with trucking, right?
Yeah, they've got to be a child, grandchild, or legal dependent of an OOIDA member. So that net is cast pretty wide. Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool that they do this and. I think it shows an appreciation from these young people that, they appreciate the trucking industry and truck drivers and everything has done and is doing for the country as well. So pretty cool thing there for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of truck drivers, I talked to Long Haul Paul. He is a truck driver and singer, has quite a number of music videos on YouTube, and very interesting guy. He's just got a really cool story. Just came out with a new song, and the music video is quite incredible.
I'll have to check that out.
And
we're talking to him later this week.
Chat with him later this week. Yeah, really looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Long Haul Paul coming up. We've got a lot more coming up as well this week on Trucking with OOIDA. Don't want to spoil it, but we'll be back with another show here in just a couple of days. So we thank you for listening. On behalf of Ashley, I'm Scott, and that's another edition of Trucking with OOIDA in the books. Today's episode of Trucking with OOIDA was brought to you by a dedicated team of people that includes Jim Fetzer, Keegan White, Tennille Flick, and Kim Boren.
Got thoughts? We'd love to hear them. Call us at 1-800-324-6856 and leave us a message. Or you can send us an email to podcast@ooida.com and we might include it on the show.